Hello YouTube, today I'll be teaching you guys how to draw a cosine graph. This will be a series of videos on graphing, well, trig ratios, just cosine, sine, and tangent. Um, I'll put out more videos soon, and today I'll be talking about cosine graph and the fundamentals of both sine and cosine graph and how they look like. So let's start. So let's start with a basic equation of f of x, right, equals cos x, right? So how does that look like? So let's draw a little mini graph here. Okay. So without even looking at the coordinates, just the outline of those two graphs, how do they look like? So this is a sine graph, and this is our cosine graph, right? Okay, yeah, whatever. This is a cosine graph. Now, sine, as you can see, starts from 0. Cosine starts from, well, its maximum point, right? Which is, in this case, it's 1, but it could be anything, right? And these graphs are special because the distance from its origin, right, from there to there, or from here, from the x-axis to where their point is, right, well, to where their point is, that's called amplitude. Amplitude. So it's how much it rises from the mean value, and the mean value is with the middle of the graph, right? So this is the middle of the graph right now. The middle of the graph should be right here somewhere, right? It's a bit too low, but yeah, you get the idea. The middle of the graph, from how high they go, that's your amplitude. So well, let's start with cos now. So let me diffuse a different color for the point I'm gonna plot. So let's start off with the units that we use for graphing, right? We use either degrees or radians. So let's just do the basic units. 180 equals to 1 pi. 360 equals, well, 2 pi, right? Because you multiply that by 2 and you get 360. Half of this is 90, half a pi, right? And then half of that is, well, 45, correct? And that's pi, 1/4 of a pi. 1/4 of a pi. Okay, now these are our units. So let's start. So what's cos of 0? Well, cos of 0, as we discussed here, it's going to be the maximum value. So let's just do cos of 1. Cos of 1. And you should get, well, I mean cos of 0. What am I saying? Cos of 0. Oops, hold up, you guys. Cos of 0. So what's cos of 0? Okay, what's cos of 0? Well, cos of 0 should be 1, right? Without any, this is just a basic graph, right? This has no transformations to it. So cos of 0 is 1, and cos of 360 is 1, correct? So now, we realize that they both have the same point, which is 1 and 1, right? That means one cycle has fully ended. And what's a one? Then you might be like, what's a cycle? Well, a cycle is basically where the graph comes to its original point from where it started. So for cosine, it starts at 1, right? And when it comes back to 1 again, that's one cycle, and then we'll go again, right? And that's another cycle, because it comes back to it. So it comes back to its original point 2 times, right? 2 times. Whoops, right? So it comes back to this 2 times. So, and it keeps on going, right? For sine, it's this point right there, right? So it goes up, come back down, and come back here, right? See, with sine, it's a bit tricky because in the midway crosses 0, 2, right? That's not it. That's not it. So it has to go by one up and one full down. That's going to be one full cycle. For cosine, just when it comes back to 1 again, that's one full cycle. And you might be like, how do you, well, for these graphs, these are just a basic simple graph, and their period is 360, right? And this applies to both sine and cosine, right? So the period tells you how long it takes for one cycle to be finished. So from here, for one cycle, which is at this point, right there, right there, right? That's one cycle from there to here. It takes 360 or 2 pi, right? So now this cycle, from the second cycle, will start from 360, and this should end at 720, right? Because, well, then this is 2 pi, then what's 4 over pi? 4 over pi is 720 degrees. These are all degrees, right? So a period tells you how long one cycle takes, which for now is 360, because we don't have a horizontal stretch. We don't have it right now. It's just a simple graph of cos of x. So now we know that cos of 0 is 1. We know that cos of 360 is 1. Now let's do half of that. Half of that is gonna be, well, cos of 180. What's cos of 180, you may ask? Cos of 180 should be -1, right? So halfway of cosine, which is here, right, it should be 180. And then half of these two, well, which is cos of 90 and cos of 270, right, they should both be zeros. They should both be zeros. They should both equal to 0, right? And these points are located right here, and here, right? Because that's when the y is 0. So these are your 5 points, right? These are your 5 basic points for basic cosine graph. Now let's plot them. So this is, let's say this is 2 pi or 360, right? And half of this is going to be, well, 1 pi, which is 180. This is per pi, right? And this is going to be, what's this? This is basically half of that. So 1 half of a pi, right, which is 270, right? And then this is half a pi. Half a pi is basically 90, right? And this is 0, right there. So now let's do a different color to represent this. Okay. So we know that cos of 0 equals 1. And let's just say 1 is here, and this is -1, right? And we know the cos of 0 is 1, so we start off with here, right? And we know the cos of 180, which is half a pi, it's -1, that is your lowest point, right? And then we know cos of 360 is 1 back to 1, which is here. Yeah, here. Now, we know half of these two is going to be 0. So 270, and this is going to be 0, right? As you can see, it looks more or less like a V shape. Now, see, this is a general shape. Now you can now you can draw the graph, right? Or you can add more points. Which of adding more points, how will you do that? Well, what's half between these two, right? What's half of between this and this? Well, that's 45 degrees. And what's the cos of 45? That I'm not too sure of, but you know, it's a number. So once you get a general shape of this, then you can just plot the points like here and there, right? Because first you get the general shape, and we got the general shape, which should look like a V, right? But you can add more points, cos of 45, and half of that, which is 22.5, and so on and so on, right? And this is a little trick. So once you say if you have to draw a cosine graph, so first you find the period for how long would one cycle will take to complete, right? And which is in this case is 360, and then from then on you plot your 2 points, 2 maximum points, which would be 0 and your period point. Half of that is going to be your lowest point, and half of point between this and this, right, is going to be zeros from, or yeah, it's gonna be 0 right there, right? And then from there you can just graph like so. Just like that. Okay, so now you have learned how to draw a cosine graph without any transformation. On my next video, I will teach you guys how to draw a cosine graph with transformation.